I was halfway through checking inventory in my auto shop when my phone buzzed. At first, I didn't even look. Figured it was another supplier trying to confirm a delivery, or my accountant reminding me about invoices. But then I caught the name on the screen. Jessica. My wife. We'd been married 14 years. Built a life in Raleigh, North Carolina. House, a dog, decent backyard, one teenage son, Logan, who was about to start high school. And now she'd sent me a message that would burn all of it down in exactly 4 lines. Eric, I need to be honest. I've fallen in love with Kyle. I'm moving to Miami with him. I'm sorry. Just like that. No conversation. No fight. Not even a warning shot. She left like a thief in daylight, except she announced it like a motivational poster for living your truth. Kyle. Yeah. I knew the name. Her personal trainer. Guy with too many tank tops and a haircut that screamed midlife crisis in reverse. I'd seen the way she lit up when he texted. The way her workouts suddenly took 2 hours and required full makeup. I read the message again. Then, quietly, I locked my phone. Took a deep breath. Wiped my hands on a shop rag. Did I scream? No. Did I throw something? Also no. I walked back to the open bay door, squinted into the sunlight, and said, "All right, let's get back to the carburetor. It's not gonna fix itself." You know what the weirdest part is? I wasn't even surprised. Because deep down, I'd already buried this marriage 6 months ago. One weird conversation, one missing receipt, one fake smile at a time. I just hadn't held the funeral yet. So no, I didn't fall apart. I made a mental note, texted Logan to check in on him, and went back to work. Because while she was packing for Miami, I was about to start the kind of preparation you don't post on Instagram. This wasn't the end. It was the opening move. The thing is, when you get a message like that, the kind meant to knock the wind out of you, and all you feel is a quiet, dull confirmation, that's when you know you've already lived through the hardest part. Truth is, I'd figured it out long before Jessica ever spelled it out for me in a cowardly little text. It didn't come in one dramatic moment. No lipstick on a collar, no mystery hotel receipt. It was slower than that. Quieter. Like a slow leak in a tire. You only notice it when the steering starts to feel wrong. It started with her workouts. She'd always been into fitness, sure, but suddenly it was every day for hours. Then the new clothes, the full face makeup just to go sweat. Then came the late nights. Helping with charity events. On weekends. A sudden uptick in work dinners I was never invited to. And then, the worst of it, that look. The one she gave me across the kitchen table. Blank. Distant. Like I was part of the furniture. Background noise. You know what I did? I didn't accuse. Didn't snoop. Didn't beg. I observed. And I prepared. First, I separated the business. The auto shop had been our joint venture when we started it. Jessica handled the admin early on, and back then, it made sense. But once I saw where things were heading, I started restructuring legally. I worked with an old friend of mine, Nate, who's a damn good accountant. Quiet, discreet. We re-registered the business in my name only. Shifted payroll, restructured ownership through an LLC. Everything above board. Everything tight. Next, the finances. I opened a new account in a different bank. Slowly, I started routing the bulk of my income there. Kept just enough in the joint account to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, I took stock of every asset we had, the shop, the house, the savings, the vehicles, and started figuring out what I could protect. That's when I got a lawyer. Nothing dramatic, just a consultation. Her name was Amanda Price. Sharp as a blade, calm as a lake. I showed her the financials, laid it all out. "I think my wife's planning to leave me," I said simply. Amanda looked me straight in the eye and said, "Then let's make sure she doesn't take half your life with her." Over the next few weeks, I started documenting. I wasn't snooping. I didn't need to. She left her laptop open often enough. Her messages were lazy. There he was. Kyle. Mr. Protein Shakes and inspirational quotes. Telling her she deserved better. Calling her baby girl. I kept screenshots. Not because I wanted to confront her, but because when the day came, I'd be ready. And then, I waited. I went to work. Ate dinner with her like nothing was wrong. Sat on the couch while she scrolled through her phone, texting him from across the room. And all the while, I kept building the case. Kept moving pieces quietly, like chess. It was the longest silence of my life. But it wasn't weakness. It was strategy. So when she finally sent that message, that cheap digital breakup, she thought she was the one flipping the table. She didn't realize I had already left the game and taken the board with me. People like Jessica never notice the quiet. They see silence and think it's surrender. They assume that if you're not shouting, you must be stupid. If you're not fighting, you must not know. She had no idea I knew everything. And honestly, that was the part that made it all so easy. I didn't throw plates. Didn't hack her phone. Didn't follow her to the gym and confront her in the parking lot. I just watched and documented. It started simple. Screenshots. Every message I caught open on her laptop. Her Instagram stories, where she'd tagged the gym. Late session flexed biceps. Meanwhile, I had security footage showing her car wasn't parked there. Dates and timestamps. Nothing crazy. Just quiet, solid facts. Then the receipts. Kyle liked expensive taste. One weekend, Jessica volunteered to help with a fundraising event. Came home tipsy, smelling like hotel soap. Later, I found the hotel's name on our credit card bill. Not in her name, of course, but under a linked account. Same night, same zip code. I logged it. Took screenshots. Saved the PDF statements. It wasn't revenge I wanted. It was clarity. Control. Then came the more subtle stuff. Her tone and messages. She wasn't careful. They were sloppy. "Ugh, I can't wait to get out of here. I'm just staying until it's clean. Once I get my share of the shop, I'll be free." Free? The shop I built with my own hands? She'd written that off like she was entitled to it, like I was the temporary arrangement. That's when I realized she didn't just cheat on me. She was planning to profit from it. So I dug deeper. Backed up old tax records, invoices, bills, everything that proved Jessica had stepped back from the business years ago. No current contributions. No management role. It was all mine now, and legally, that mattered. Amanda, my lawyer, helped me create a full dossier. It wasn't flashy. Just clean, chronological, undeniable. If a judge ever saw it, there'd be no questions. And through it all, I said nothing. I smiled when she walked in. Cooked dinner like always. Even bought her favorite wine for her birthday. She probably thought I was getting sentimental. Nah. I was getting finished. Every smile was a signature. Every nod at the dinner table was a lock clicking into place. Jessica had no idea she was walking into her own trap, one she laid, and I just quietly sealed shut. She thought I was asleep at the wheel. But I wasn't asleep. I was steering. Right toward the day she'd crash and wonder how it all happened so fast. I remember one moment especially. She was packing for a fitness retreat in Tampa, giggling like a teenager. I asked if she needed help with her luggage. She laughed and said, "No, baby, I got this." And she did. She had this. The lie, the plan, the illusion. But I had everything else. Her first mistake wasn't cheating. It wasn't even lying. It was thinking I'd let her use my wallet to fund her new beginning. That Tuesday, I was in the office, finalizing invoices. Quiet day. Coffee gone cold. Then I got the notification. Shared credit card used at Vista Lux Travel. Flagged as suspicious. Curious, huh? I opened the transaction. 2 first-class tickets to Miami. Check-in at the Seabreeze Hotel. Spa package. Ocean View Suite. Booked in her name, email, and phone number. Well. See, she had forgotten something. Months ago, I'd added fraud alerts to our joint account and rerouted all notifications to my phone. She never noticed, because I let her feel in control. The best traps don't snap. They wait. And this one waited until she pressed confirm. I picked up the phone and called Chase. Hi, yes, I need to report unauthorized charges on my shared account. Do you have documentation? The agent asked. Texts, proof of infidelity, travel booked without consent, I said. I can email you the whole timeline. A pause. Understood, sir. The charges will be canceled and the account frozen. Is there anything else? Yeah, I said. Remove the secondary card holder. Jessica was now holding a piece of plastic that connected to nothing. Friday came. She was supposed to be gone by 11 a.m. I knew this because, again, she wasn't subtle. She even had the nerve to write, Miami, here we come face-blowing kiss, in her planner. Left it open on the kitchen table. That morning, I went for a jog. Grabbed a coffee. Took my time. Around 10:52 a.m., my phone rang. Eric? She said. Her voice was tight, sharp around the edges. Hey, I answered calmly. Something wrong? We're at the airport. The tickets aren't working. The card was declined. I said. That's strange. Dead silence on the line. Then, Did you do something? That's the moment I realized she hadn't told Kyle the full story. She played it like she was the brave one, leaving the cold husband. Probably painted me as boring, controlling, some deadweight guy she'd finally shaken loose. Only now, Prince Charming was standing beside her at the gate with no ticket and no hotel. I heard a faint male voice in the background. What's going on? She whispered something back. Another voice. You said this was handled. Then the click of a call dropped. She hung up. I smiled. Took another sip of my coffee. What was she going to do? Call Chase and argue that her ex blocked her Miami fantasy trip with the guy she left him for? 2 hours later, she tried again. Now she was in damage control mode. Voice sweet. Desperate. Eric, we need to talk. That was really low. Low? I said. You mean using our joint card to take your gym trainer to a beachside suite? I didn't think you'd check. No. You didn't think at all. I let her stew in that for a second. Then added, You know, it's funny. You were so focused on escaping, you didn't even check whose name was on the account. She was quiet. He's pissed, she finally said. This is humiliating. Tell Kyle he can pick up some extra shifts. That spa package wasn't cheap. Another silence. She hung up. It was beautiful, in a way. The first real moment she felt the consequences. Not yelling. Not threats. Just a wall she didn't see coming, because it was built quietly, brick by brick, while she was off smiling into a mirror she thought only showed her best angle. That day, I ordered lunch, sat in the park, and watched a father chase his daughter through a patch of grass. I remembered when Jessica used to laugh like that, back when we had a real marriage. But those days were long gone. She had spent months rehearsing her new life, but apparently forgot to pay for the stage. The thing about silence is, it gives you time. Time to think. Time to build. And in my case, time to prepare. The Monday after her little Miami disaster, I met with my attorney, a sharp guy out of Boulder named Jeremy Fields. The kind of guy who wore cufflinks that probably had initials of other lawyers he'd already buried. He slid the folder across the table. "Ready when you are." Inside, everything. Petty? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. Photos. Screenshots. Card statements. Hotel charges. Even a few public selfies she'd posted and later deleted. Jessica in workout gear at brunch with Kyle, captioned, "Team building flexed biceps tropical drink." I nodded. "File it. Contested or uncontested?" "She doesn't know it yet. But uncontested. She just hasn't figured it out." See, months ago, when the red flags turned from flickers to bonfires, I stopped arguing. Instead, I made a call to an estate planner, and then another one to a corporate attorney. Everything I owned, from the coffee shop chain to the investment properties, had been quietly moved under a trust. Not hidden, just protected. I'd spent the last decade building that business from scratch. She used to mock how much time I spent buried in QuickBooks. Called the shop, "Your little espresso thing." Now, suddenly it was our empire. Jessica had this idea that marriage automatically meant ownership. And I get it. We were married for 14 years. But when you invest sweat, sleepless nights, and your actual sanity into something, that's not shared property. That's survival. Back when things were good, she insisted we get a prenup. Irony? She didn't trust me, because I was starting a business, and she had a stable office job. The prenup had a clause about infidelity. Guess who forgot? I didn't. "Jeremy," I asked, "does the trust hold against any claims?" He smiled. "She'd need to prove direct contribution. Financial, strategic, or managerial. So unless she brewed lattes and did your taxes in her sleep, you're good." By Wednesday, the divorce petition was filed. Jessica finally called. "You went behind my back?" I could hear her pacing. "No," I said calmly. "You went ahead without checking if I was still behind you." She scoffed. "You can't just lock me out of everything. That business is half mine." "No," I replied. "The house?" "Half." "The car?" "Sure, let's talk." "But the business?" "It's owned by a trust. Set up legally months ago. It never entered the marriage. It was structured from day one to be separate. You can't do that." "I already did." She paused. You could hear her brain trying to reframe it all. "I gave up years for you. I gave up decades, Jess. And Kyle's a kid. He's not gonna fix this for you." There it was. The slip. The panic. "You thought he'd come with money?" Newsflash. The gym pays him in smoothies and Instagram followers. I didn't even raise my voice. No anger. No bitterness. Just facts. She tried to switch gears. "Let's be civil. We don't need to make this ugly." Ugly? I wanted to laugh. She left a man for a guy who did bicep curls in the mirror, and now that her getaway blew up, I was the villain. "I'm being civil," I said. "I'm giving you the cleanest out possible. You keep your salary, your retirement, but you don't touch my business." "What if I talk to the court?" "Feel free. The prenup's solid. The trust is ironclad. And your beach selfies with Kyle don't exactly scream faithful spouse." She hung up. And that was the first time it hit her. She'd underestimated me. She thought I was just the quiet guy in the corner. The steady one. The boring one. The one she could leave behind, with her name on my future. But what she didn't see, I had been planning for this moment the entire time she was planning her escape. And I never once missed leg day. Financially speaking, Miami lasted exactly 3 nights. I didn't expect to hear from her so soon. Honestly, I thought she'd ride the fantasy a little longer, string together beach selfies and fake laughs. Maybe a new chapter. Post on Instagram. But nope. By night 4, Kyle was gone. Vanished. Poof. Apparently, the same guy who said he loved how real she was couldn't handle that reality for more than a weekend in a motel with no minibar and questionable towels. She called me Monday morning. Block number. I let it ring twice before picking up. Eric, can we talk? Pause. You can talk. But if it's legal, forward it to my attorney. I'm not calling as your wife. I noticed. I didn't expect things to go this way. Which part? Him ghosting you before the free breakfast ended? Or the part where you realized he doesn't actually own the gym? She exhaled. The kind of breath that says, please pretend this isn't as pathetic as it is. Kyle needs space. He's processing things. He's young. Yeah, I said. So's tequila. Doesn't mean you build a future with it. Silence. She finally admitted she was back in Raleigh, staying at a friend's. Probably the same friend who'd been covering for her during those extra shifts at the gym. She didn't have a plan. No job lined up. No money. The joint account she thought she emptied? It had less in it than the emotional depth of her relationship with Kyle. Then came the line I knew was coming. I just want us to be okay. As people. As people. Not as husband and wife. Not even as friends. Just 2 people, one of whom detonated a 14-year marriage with the subtlety of a firework in a church. I didn't bite. You don't get to choose how okay we are, Jess. That's not your job anymore. I made a mistake. No, Jess. You made a plan. A mistake is ordering the wrong coffee. You built a whole exit strategy. I could almost hear her jaw clench. I was unhappy. And you thought a 26-year-old with abs and a snapback was the fix? I thought you'd understand. That made me laugh. Not loud. Just bitter enough. No, you thought I'd collapse. You thought I'd beg. You thought I was too slow to catch up. Another pause. Then a quieter voice. Can we just talk without lawyers? I took a breath. Not out of frustration. Just to give the moment space. No, I said simply. We can't. I'd spent months planning this clean break. I wasn't about to throw it into the blender because she suddenly felt lonely at a friend's couch. You built this wall, I told her. Brick by brick. With every deleted message, every excuse, every lie. And now you want me to open a door? She started to cry. Or at least, tried to sound like she was. You were always cold. No, Jess. I was careful. And you mistook that for weakness. The call ended. No yelling. No swearing. No closure. Just another sad ending in a story she wrote and didn't finish. That afternoon, my lawyer texted. Her counsel just reached out. Says she's reconsidering terms. I replied, tell them to stick to the original offer. Or we go full court. See, here's the thing about people like Jessica. They always think the fall won't touch them. That someone will catch them on the way down. That consequences are optional if your apology sounds soft enough. But consequences don't care about tone. And neither did I. She had a taste of freedom. And it tasted like motel coffee, missed calls, and a guy named Kyle who suddenly wasn't ready for commitment. Meanwhile, I was sipping espresso in my own office. Business booming. Bank accounts clean. And not a single text from someone asking for space. She finally took it to court. Maybe she thought she could still talk her way through it. That emotions would outweigh documents. Or maybe she just never believed I'd actually follow through. We sat across from each other in the courtroom. I was in a dark suit, calm. My lawyer beside me. She wore something humble, almost apologetic. Hair pulled back, eyes a little puffy. Could have been regret. Could have been just a bad night's sleep. The judge, a sharp woman in her 50s, wasted no time. No patience for nonsense. Then it started. Her attorney stood. My client contributed emotionally and morally to the success of the business. She supported her husband for years and put her own career aside. My lawyer didn't flinch. Just slid a folder across the table. Your Honor, here are the business documents. The trust was created 2 years before the marriage. Here are tax records confirming Mrs. Harper was listed solely as a dependent. No financial contributions. No legal stake. Just personal purchases charged to a shared card, all itemized here. The judge looked over at Jessica. Did you ever have access to the business or its finances? Jessica hesitated. I was involved. We talked about things, my lawyer calmly replied. We've also included screenshots of messages sent by Mrs. Harper stating, and I quote, "The business is all his. I just enjoy the perks." The judge raised an eyebrow. These your words, Mrs. Harper? She went quiet. Tears welled up, but not the kind that move anyone in that room. These were the kind that come when your story doesn't land. Then came the real swing. She tried claiming she deserved a payout for the years I invested in our life. But the prenup, ironically, one she insisted on when she joined my company, had it all spelled out. Infidelity voids all claim to shared assets. She clearly forgot that clause. I didn't. The judge didn't blink. You signed this agreement willingly? Jessica nodded. Yes, but I didn't think. This court doesn't weigh assumptions, Mrs. Harper. We weigh facts. Her attorney tried a last shot. She wasn't aware of the full consequences. My lawyer. My client was. That's why he prepared. The ruling came down hard and clean. All property acquired before marriage, retained by Eric. Business earnings, verified as separate income. Shared account, subject to restitution for personal misuse. No spousal support granted. Then the judge added, This isn't vengeance. This is foresight backed by documentation. Case closed. Jessica stood up slowly. Didn't look at me. Didn't say a word. Just walked out like someone who finally realized this was never about emotions. It was about reality. I left with a file under my arm. No celebration. No bitterness. Just a quiet win. Not because she betrayed me, but because I didn't betray myself. In a small city like Raleigh, bad news moves faster than traffic on a Friday afternoon. And this wasn't just bad news. It was scandal wrapped in failure, tied with a bow of public embarrassment. People started talking. At first, it was just quiet whispers. Colleagues, acquaintances, parents at Liam's school drop-off line. She left him for some gym trainer, right? No, he wasn't just a trainer. He was 25 and unemployed. That girl lost her mind. It didn't take long before it wasn't whispers anymore. It was phone calls, texts, even polite nods at the grocery store that said, "We know." Jessica's little fantasy with Kyle? That didn't last long after the Miami trip collapsed. He stuck around for about 3 nights in a budget motel before reality slapped him across the face. Turns out, love is a little harder when it doesn't come with a beachfront suite and a joint checking account. He ghosted her like he'd never met her. She came crawling back to Raleigh not long after, wearing oversized sunglasses and some excuse about needing to refocus. But people weren't buying it. Her reputation didn't just take a hit, it went off a cliff. Turns out, when you abandon your husband of 12 years, leave your teenage son confused, and try to swipe half a business that was never yours, people remember. Her office at the wellness nonprofit? Gone within weeks. They called it a mutual separation. But I knew it wasn't mutual when HR called me for a reference, and I sent over documentation from the court. Friends who once gushed over her energy started creating distance. Girls' night stopped happening. People forgot to invite her to functions. Her social media went dark for a bit. Then came the inspirational quotes. Then silence. And then nothing. Meanwhile, I moved my office into a space downtown. Glass windows, big conference table, quiet corner with a coffee machine I actually use. The consulting firm, yeah, the one she once called my little side hustle, hit its first million in annual revenue that same month. I hired 2 full-time analysts and brought in a branding team to rework the whole image. Clean, sharp, future-focused. Clients noticed. Referrals started pouring in. The same people who used to smile at us as a couple now shook my hand and said, "Glad to see you doing better. You deserve it, man." And maybe the most surreal moment? Liam, our son, sat in that new office one afternoon doing homework. Looked up and said, "I like it here. It feels like you're winning." I didn't respond right away. Just looked at him and thought, "You have no idea, kid." Jessica tried to reach out a couple times. Not to get back together. Just to talk. Maybe rebuild a little dignity. I kept it short. "You made your choices. This is where they led." Her last text? "I never thought it would go this far." Neither did I. But I also didn't think she'd trade our life for abs and protein shakes. Reputation is a currency. She spent hers chasing a daydream. I invested mine in resilience. And the return? More than worth it. It came on a Sunday morning. Rain outside, coffee in hand, dog asleep by the door. The kind of quiet that feels earned. And there it was, an email. Subject line: "One last thing." From Jessica. Sent at 2:06 a.m. I almost didn't open it. But I did. Not out of curiosity. Not out of hope. Just habit, maybe. Closure by confirmation. It was long. Way longer than it needed to be. Paragraphs stacked like excuses in a courtroom. The kind of message someone writes when they finally realize the full weight of their choices. I made mistakes. I didn't know what I wanted. Kyle was a fantasy, not a partner. I miss our life. I see now what we had. The kicker? Maybe we could try again. Start fresh. For Liam. I stared at the screen for a minute. Then I clicked archive. No reply. No drama. Just gone. That part of my life was done. Not paused. Not damaged. Done. I didn't need to tell her why. She already knew. And honestly, that silence probably hit harder than anything I could have said. Word gets around. She started showing up again in places I used to avoid. Community events, school fundraisers, little coffee shops she used to claim were hers. But now, people didn't exactly line up to catch up. The women she once hosted wine nights with, they nodded politely and went back to their groups. The guys from my gym, who used to roll their eyes when I mentioned marriage counseling, now they fist bump me on the way in. I saw what you did, man. Clean. Sharp. Respect. Even her own sister called me one afternoon. You're handling it with class, Eric. I just want you to know, not everyone in the family agrees with what she did. I told her I appreciated it, but the truth is, at this point, I didn't need the validation. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about winning. It was about walking away without dragging the mess behind me. Liam? He saw the difference too. Less stress. More focus. More laughs between us. He never said much about his mom. But one day, driving home from school, he muttered, "Glad you didn't take her back. That would have been weird." I just nodded. We didn't need to talk about it. We'd already lived through it. A few weeks after the email, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. Yep, actual paper, envelope, her handwriting. The same one that used to scribble love notes in my lunch box. It was softer than the email. Less pleading, more reminiscing. She talked about our first apartment, the camping trip that went sideways, Liam's first soccer game. Like memories could rebuild something broken. I read it once. Then I set it aside. Some people try to return to the past like it's a place that didn't burn down. But me? I'd already walked through the ashes and built something new on the other side. She hasn't written since. Maybe she finally got it. I don't hate her. I'm not bitter. But there's a difference between forgiving someone and inviting them back into your peace. And peace? I earned mine the hard way. No need to reopen a chapter that was never meant to be reread. Austin's got this thing about it. The sun's always a little too bright. The coffee's always a little too strong. And the energy? It hums. Like a city that's halfway into tomorrow, but still has a soul. It's been 2 years since that text. The one that read, "I'm leaving you. Kyle and I are going to Miami. I hope someday you understand." I understood just fine. Now, I wake up at 6:30 without an alarm. Stretch. Coffee. News. Emails. By 8 a.m., I'm at the second workshop. Yes, second. First one's in Raleigh. Still humming. The second, here in Austin, is thriving. Clean space. Big windows. A crew that knows their craft and respects the hell out of the work. We do custom fabrication, metal, wood tech integrations. Design firms from out of state now email me for bids. One even asked if I consider licensing the business name. The irony? Jessica used to roll her eyes when I talked shop. Who even needs custom metalwork anymore? Turns out, architects, museums, high-end realtors, and 3 separate music festivals. Sometimes people ask if I've moved on, and I always give the same answer. I didn't move on. I moved forward. I'm 43. I have 2 dogs, a full calendar, and a reputation for never missing a deadline. I've been on dates. Some good, some forgettable. But I'm not rushing. See, it's different now. There's no pressure to prove anything. Not to anyone. I know what I bring to the table. And I built that damn table myself. Every now and then, I'll get a message from someone back in Raleigh. She's working part-time now. Not sure where Kyle went. Or, she asked about you at Liam's parent night. I don't ask for updates. I don't wish her ill. But I'm not curious either. Because I remember that moment. That night when I sat at the dining table, rereading her message, and I didn't break. I didn't scream. I didn't fall apart. I just started. Started building. Started writing down the blueprint for my life after her. And now? Now I walk into a shop that hums with saws and sparks, where people nod when I speak, where every inch of wall space is lined with results. And I smile. Because that message? The one meant to shatter me. It lit the fuse. Some days, Liam comes down to Austin. He's older now, talks more like a man than a kid. Wants to learn the business. Not because he has to, but because he's interested. And you better believe I'm teaching him everything. What love looks like. What betrayal teaches you. And what real power feels like when you don't have to raise your voice to be heard. I was never supposed to end up here, if you ask Jessica. I was supposed to crumble, to beg, to become some sad middle-aged guy with a dream and a couch for a bed. Instead, I became something else. Not bitter, not broken, better. That's the thing no one tells you about heartbreak. It's not the end. It's just demolition. And if you've got the right tools and enough patience, you can build a damn empire from the rubble. I did. And every time I see the sparks fly in my workshop, every time I shake a client's hand, every time I hear someone say, "You're the guy who owns Forge and Form, right?" I think about that one text, and I smile.